Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. We have a new moon in Sagittarius that we need to talk about today. I personally find new moons to be quite significant. This is the time each month when the sun and the moon come into their exact alignment with one another in whatever given sign they happen to be transiting through. It marks our formal entrance into the season of that sign. And when we look at the aspects and the transits and the energy associated with any given new moon chart, exact alignment between the sun and the moon, we can get a pretty good idea of like the major themes that are probably going to be playing out throughout the course of that month and kind of an idea of how things might go and perhaps what we can expect. So I really like to look at the new moon charts each month because it gives us sort of like the microcosm of what that greater 4-week period is likely to contain and entail. And I'll tell you guys, this new moon in Sagittarius that we've got going on right now, there are on one hand themes about lessons, blessings, the implementation of wisdom gained through experience, rewards associated with that, victory, success, but also a need to be strategic, to be calculated, to be patient. There's a very like karmic inclination to what we've got going on here, and the battle, the contest, the competition, like it's kind of, I feel like it's kind of on throughout the course of this Sagittarius cycle, the way that this particular chart is presenting. Now, to me, this is kind of a unique new moon in Sagittarius because of the degree where the new moon is actually occurring, and I'm not going to like waste a whole bunch of time getting to the point in terms of where this new moon is occurring. There's a lot of other information. We've got a lot of transits that we need to talk about, but the specific degree location of the new moon itself is kind of telling us a lot. It happens to be occurring at 9 degrees and 32 minutes exactly of the sign of Sagittarius, which is a significant astrological placement because that is the degree location of the fixed star ANTARES. These fixed stars, which there are several of, there's 4 royal fixed stars, I believe, and ANTARES is one of them. It's one of the most powerful, most significant fixed stars in like all of ancient astrology. And it is the star that has a lot to do actually with military strategy, battle plans. It gives this very like cunning, calculated ability to like hatch a plan and execute it and carry it out. It can be quite ruthless, but it is also very broad-minded, and it can actually be kind of like liberal or generous about things as well, but it's definitely about doing things a certain way. Patience, meticulousness, being very calculated, being very strategic in order to gain success or victory or prominence or conquer your enemies or whatever is going on. But with the prominence of ANTARES via exact conjunction with this new moon in Sagittarius, and we're going to talk much more about this as we move through the report, because it's not actually just ANTARES either. There is a fixed star that opposes exactly ANTARES, which is kind of the oppositional energy of that sign. That's the fixed star Aldebaran, which we've talked about before on this channel, the Archangel Michael star. And when we've got this axis prominent, which we do when we've got a new moon lining up, the polarity point to that new moon is very prominent as well. That's where we would put the position of the earth when we're talking about astrology. So this specific axis brings these battle themes into it, brings the contest, the battle is on, all right? And it's likely again to present in the context of the forces of good and evil, like coming up against one another. ANTARES in the sidereal zodiac falls in the heart of Scorpio. It's known as the heart of the Scorpion, okay? So you can take the symbolic references that you may get in association with that and kind of apply them in terms of what I'm going to tell you about ANTARES as we move through this report. The fact that it would represent the heart of the Scorpion, like that tells you a lot about this energy. And then the opposition of that, Aldebaran, this is known as the eye of the bull. because it's in the sign of Taurus from the sidereal zodiac perspective. And of course, it's known as the Archangel Michael star. So we've got like the above and below types of themes that are once again playing themselves out in the context of a new moon cycle. If you guys have been following along with the last couple of new moon cycles, it's like every single one in its own unique way has been making this reference to this like epic battle of the ages, good versus evil, like the past and the future up against one another, coming to a head, the point of no return, like having to release and let go and surrender, but also emerging in something new, like at the forefront of being birthed or created or induced. Like we're once again falling right back into the same planetary theme or the same pattern that seems to be unfolding, which I feel like is so demonstrative of this greater energetic epic that we are moving through right now as we are transitioning ages also and moving from the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius. We are, of course, going through a shift of ages right now, narrating the shift of the ages on this channel. So we are always talking about the greater overall cosmic blueprint that's unfolding, how these day-to-day transits and activations and new moon cycles coming in are playing their role in achieving that overall greater purpose of that shift of ages that's underway right now. It's really cool because through the astrology and through monitoring it on such a microcosm level, we can see how like each little shift, each little spark, each little activation, each little like series of events is sort of like a code, or it's like a pathway to this greater overall evolution, essentially cosmic evolution that we're moving towards. And we can see how it's working through the more minute ways that these energies are impacting us. But this is a time of great transformation, great change, and honestly epic battles. We are going through this generational shift. Pluto has left the sign of Capricorn, where it was essentially like centralizing power and maintaining power and control in the hands of the few and empowering the past and tradition and like the way that things have been done for a very long period of time to be perpetuated. That was really what was being strengthened and empowered when we had Pluto transiting through the sign of Capricorn, ruled by Saturn. Authority, control, establishment, tradition. And now we've got Pluto entering the sign of Aquarius, which, yes, Pluto or Aquarius is ruled by Saturn, but it's also ruled by Uranus. And Aquarius is an energy about like breaking out of the box that we've been conditioned to remain in while we're in the Capricornian energy. It requires us actually to learn how to integrate the discipline and the control and the tradition and the authority that the Capricornian Saturnian energy represents with this unique individualism and authenticity and talent and potential and destiny, vision, greater vision or something that Uranus also like invokes in us and sparks within us and like urges us to reach and yearn for and towards. So we've got this really like, and that's, you know, Aquarius is a wacky sign. It's known as the oddball. It's like very like eccentric and like outside of the box, right? But it's because sometimes that is just what is required in order to break that mold, in order to break out of that box. And Aquarius also does pave the way a lot of times. Aquarius energy does bring in like early adopters, and there is kind of this more like prophetic knowing that can be associated with this sign as well, because I always read Aquarius and Uranus sort of as an energy that tries to facilitate some type of future outcome to come to pass, especially if we are not necessarily on the course or the path that is meant to lead us there. They say that Uranus brings the changes for us that we haven't been able to make for ourselves, and I always feel like it's like the lightning striking the tower, the galactic fixer, and I always feel like that is for the purpose of getting us back on some specific like destined course to make something happen, to achieve a destiny, to achieve a potential, to further or like our pursuit in alignment with our soul growth or something like that. Like there is some higher purpose or higher plan associated with Aquarian Uranian changes whenever they come to pass, which is why also like silver linings and blessings in disguise are associated with this energy anyways also. But anyways, random tangent about Aquarius. The reason why I'm talking about that is because Pluto just entered the sign of Aquarius. This is going to decentralize the power associated with that Capricornian Plutonic dynamic, and it's also going to re-empower the individual as we move through this period of time. This is also representing sort of like this battle of the ages type of thing, as it's cosmically time for that past way, that past power structure, that past hierarchy of order and power and control, the matrix of old, to finally come to a point of meeting its downfall, as we have this new decentralized system that is emerging now that will actually function to re-empower the individual through an enhanced level of understanding and awareness. There is a massive like conscious awakening that's coming, and I think it's just because we are going to gain access to maybe more information or different information, or what we're learning or how we're thinking about things. The power of our mind and our understanding of the power of our mind is going to shift dramatically as we move forward through this next 20 years with Pluto now in the sign of Aquarius, Pluto Aquarius generation. And it is, and it has been, and this whole shift of ages and everything associated with it has really been playing into these repeating themes of this epic battle of the ages, showdown of the ages, that is again being presented by this particular new moon falling exactly on the polarity axis of Antares and Aldebaran. I think that this is going to be a lunar cycle where we find ourselves being challenged to like fight back or conquer or overcome some type of limitation or control or restraint or blockage or hindrance, be it something physical that we're actually perceiving or dealing with in the 3D environment, authority figures, bosses, just like difficult situations, or perhaps it's just the matrix of our own beliefs, which have in some way been debilitating or stifled our personal growth somehow. Anything that is acting as a blockage to growth, yet again, here's another lunar cycle that is talking about being at war with that perhaps, but also giving us a very good guide on how to gain victory over whatever circumstance or force we may find ourselves coming up against in this energy. This is the time when we are being pushed to overcome and expand in this Sagittarius season that we're moving into right now, where Jupiter, ruler of the cycle, is in the oppositional sign, the sign of Gemini, and also in an opposition to the ruler of Gemini, Mercury, while they're in this mutual reception. I'm telling you guys, the lessons learned, that is our golden ticket here. Okay, so let's talk specifically about the transits that we've got going on, the basic data about the chart. I've already talked about the nature of new moons generally. Sunday, December 1st, 2024, this is when the sun and the moon are aligning, as I mentioned, at 9 degrees and 32 minutes of the sign of Sagittarius. This will be happening at 6:22 Universal Time, 1:22 a.m. Eastern Time, and we know that it's happening in exact conjunction with the fixed star Antares, exact opposition with the fixed star Aldebaran. Now, another thing about this particular little new moon that we've got lining up for us here is that it's going to be in a square to Saturn. Saturn, the control, the limitation, the authority, the pressure, the duty, the responsibility, the restriction, and the box. Okay? Square to Saturn, and it's also going to be in a trine to Mars in Leo. We also, as I mentioned, have Mercury and Jupiter in both in opposition with each other and in mutual reception with each other. This is significant because Jupiter is ruling the cycle, who rules the sign of Sagittarius. So the fact that he's in an opposition with Mercury tells us that there is important, big, significant information that is wrapped up in whatever unfolds throughout the course of this lunar cycle. Now, it's not just a standard opposition. Both of these planets are also retrograde. something about the past, past lessons, past information, patterns. Mercury is also a planet, and Gemini is a sign that has to do with patterns and repetitions and things like repeating themselves. And it has to do also with duplicates and doublings of things, which I also want to mention. I've referenced this theme of doubling multiple times in this report, and there's many reasons why I'm saying that. First of all, Jupiter ruling the cycle in the sign of Gemini, the sign of the twins, but also the date, the numerology with which this is occurring. It's December 1st, 2024. That's 121224. 12 12 24. Obviously 12 and 12 doubled equals 24. So we've got doubling coming through in terms of the numerology and the date present. We've got doubling coming through in terms of the mercurial and the Jupiter and Gemini influence here. And then the degree placement where Jupiter is right now as well. That Sabian symbol with Jupiter being at 18 degrees of Gemini right now is two Chinese men talking Chinese in a Western crowd, which is another reference to like two of something, to the pair, to the duplicate. So I don't know, just because of the numerology and all of the Gemini energy, and even like the reference of two specifically in the placement of Jupiter symbolically ruling the cycle, there just seems to be something about the potential for things to double, to be doubled, to double down on, like something along those lines. Okay, so I just want to put that out there in case that is relevant to any of you somehow. But of course, most significantly, obviously, I feel like is the fact that this new moon is falling in exact alignment with the polarity of these fixed stars, which I do want to go into some greater detail about now. The polarity of Antares and Aldebaran, the heart of the Scorpion, the eye of the bull, the Archangel Michael star, and the Lord of War. This polarity, these two dynamics do represent energetically this battle between good versus evil, dark versus light. It's not necessarily that Antares is something that is known to be evil, but it just like Mars, okay, because Antares is actually even the name Antares, Aries in Antares is, that's Aries, that's Mars, that's why that's there. And that's like the anti-Mars. It's known as the second Mars. It's this big red, bright, very bright star, and it has also themes associated with war, battle, military strategy. So it gives a lot of the same energies and qualities as Mars. Mars is in ancient astrology referred to as a malefic planet. That doesn't mean that Mars makes bad things happen, but in terms of the ways that the ancients categorized planetary energy based on patterns and experience, they considered the Martian energy to be a more malefic energy. And Antares would sort of be on that end of things. It reminds me kind of the Scorpio side of Mars. You know how Mars rules two planets? Mars is a ruler of Aries, but Mars is also the co-ruler of Scorpio. This to me is like the scorpionic expression of that Martian energy. Tough, strategic, ruthless, kind of like more secretive, action happening behind the scenes, setting the stage, hatching the plan, you know what I mean? And the thing though about Antares is it's also got this Jupiterian influence. So although it is known to be a more malefic energy, it also has characteristics of being quite like broad-minded and almost like at times kind of generous or more liberal about the way that it deals with things. It has a broadened perspective, but that also really helps with the strategic approach that is so associated with this particular fixed star as well. So it has a lot to do with the military. It has a lot to do with battle planning. It gives mental alertness, strategic ability, courage. It can cause malevolence. It can cause destruction, just as Mars can, but it also gives this more expansive viewpoint and can borderline on generosity at times as well. So in other words, with that being the primary influence associated with the alignment of this new moon, what's going to be unfolding throughout the course of this next couple of weeks here, I do think that this looks like a cycle where battle plans are being hatched, perhaps. And if it's not a battle plan, it might just be some type of plan or strategy to get ourselves ahead somehow. The new moon is also in this trine with Mars and Leo. There is some personal ambition or motivation or drive that is pursuing us to move forward, expand, grow, free ourselves from something. Sagittarius ultimately is a sign about freedom, faith, and truth. Now, as I mentioned, the new moon is also in a square to Saturn in Pisces, which is limitation, control, restriction, duty, responsibility, authority, obligation. In the sign of Pisces, this can also be belief systems or traditions that are limiting or overly controlling or debilitating somehow. This can also be like personal illness or weakness or vulnerability on some level that we feel is blocking our ability to like grow or become more or strive or get ahead somehow. But regardless if we're talking about it coming from the fact that the new moon is square Saturn, or if we talk about the fact that it's aligning with ANTARES, it's both of those are still talking about this challenge, this battle, this conflict that's being presented that we need to overcome, that we need to persevere through: control, limitation, authority, suffering, and the need to conquer in order to like achieve some type of victory or success or reward. But the way there, the road there, like the strategy that we need to take is very clear if we know how to read the energy and pay attention to what is present for us right now. We really do, like, yes, we could find ourselves coming up perhaps against some very challenging or difficult situation, authority figure, who knows what it is, just challenge that we need to conquer. Universe literally has the blueprint of how to overcome this, and not only overcome it in the way that leads to some type of reward or award or acknowledgement, victory, success, somehow literally encoded in the battles or the conflicts that are being presented as well. There are luck and blessings and rewards promised through the proper implementation of the mind, really, and the actions as a result as we move through this period of time. So be very strategic here, you guys. Whoever has the best strategy is going to come out on top. This is timing. This is precision. This is calculated responses. This is also courage and a element of risk taking. When we've got ANTARES present here, this is not spontaneous actions fueled by emotion and thinking that you're going to get a win here. That is not what will find success or be rewarded in the energy. The more controlled and disciplined that we can be in our approach, patience, being very meticulous, having that broad vision, seeing the whole playing field, having that more like delayed gratification, like long-term strategy here, being in it to like win perhaps the war and not just the individual battle, that is where we're going to find the best results, okay? And because of that trine from Mars and Leo, which I mentioned a minute ago, the more that we can harness our passions and our energy and creativity and channel them into this wise strategic move that we need to make or action that we need to take that actually supports our purpose or our means or our objective or what we're trying to accomplish or get done, also the more like luck we're going to seem to have, the more like the fates will appear to be on our side, and also the easier things will probably go for us, the better things will fall into place. Jupiter, Sagittarius, like Jupiter is the planet that rules good luck and good fortune and windfalls and things happening in our favor, okay? With Jupiter in the sign of Gemini, information, lessons, what we've learned from the past. Retrograde Jupiter also rules wisdom. Saturn also rules our lessons. Jupiter's in an opposition with Mercury, who also rules what we've learned and our lessons and the patterns associated with them from the past, both Mercury and Jupiter retrograde. While this new moon is coming in at this specific degree that calls for strategy and patience and calculation in order to get the victorious result, it's very, very clear, you guys, the approach that we need to take. And then with the Mars, that's our energy feeding in the sign of Leo. That's the life force energy. That's the courage. That's the strength. That's the passion, the creativity, the fervor, the motivation, the drive, feeding right into that new moon in Sagittarius that's squaring Saturn. How we channel our energy, the choices and decisions that we make, how we choose to act at this time, that is what is directly going to get us either the prize or further lessons, okay? So things are very, very clear the way that this is presented. The more ruthless, vengeful, and barbaric and essentially ego-driven we are, the more likely we are to be challenged and disciplined by some authority or some restriction because of that Saturnian square. I feel like this is universe urging us to please be smart as we move through this time with the ruler of the cycle retrograde in Gemini and mutual reception with Mercury, opposite Mercury retrograding in Sagittarius. This is what we are learning, reconsidering, rethinking, applied in the context of our actions, choices, and decisions, and what we're gonna do next to get ahead somehow. The ability to maintain an open mind and that broad bird's eye view perspective on things and make revisions, make corrections, make decisions accordingly, and also to consider past precedent, right? Past patterning. What's happened before when this scenario played out, and perhaps what alterations should we make to our approach this time around to perhaps get a better and more successful outcome or result. The doubling of things, a second chance, a second opportunity could be a way that this doubling energy is kind of playing out before, but definitely the past precedent, what it's taught us based on what's happened before and how we're going to alter our behavior moving forward with some type of strategic approach in mind. This is the recipe for success over enemies, real, perceived, imagined, blockages, limitations. This is all about the application of wisdom, strategy, honor, and meticulousness and accuracy in our approach to achieving our goals or moving ourselves forward somehow. For those of us who have not assimilated or learned the lesson of how to properly derive this wisdom from experience and apply it in some successful context in terms of making changes to perhaps some repeating patterns that we've got playing out right now, this could be a time of a bit of maybe self-destruction or just some great frustration or maybe destruction on another level somehow, with Mars trining the fire new moon in Sagittarius and the Antares fixed star. Both of these, this Martian energy, can cause, themes of destruction and breakdown as well. Also with the square to Saturn, that can also have to do with breakdown. And another element of this chart is we have a trine playing out between Venus in Capricorn and Uranus in the sign of Taurus, Venus's sign. Another element of this could be very relationally oriented or financially or materially oriented, sudden unexpected relationship, partnership, material alliance, agreement, commitment, financial investment, change, upset, shift that could just happen out of nowhere without us putting any effort into it. There could just be sudden changes along those lines that are happening. But it could also be suddenly altering tastes and preferences and value systems and what we desire and what we are attracted to and the worth of things and what we find worthy. There could also be this sudden awakening or shift in values and preferences that is kind of coming out of nowhere and altering maybe how we want to use our energy or what we're going to choose or decide for ourselves moving forward. This can also represent new money, financial like liberation or revolution on some level. I think cryptocurrencies could see some interesting activity with this Venus-Uranus trine that we've got going on in association with what's unfolding all month long. It could also be like representing unexpected wild purchases, like totally spontaneous impulse purchases. So if you tend to get yourself involved with things like that, you might just want to be aware that that type of thing can be indicated here as well. But sudden newness, innovation, liberation, change, wild, shocking twists and turns to things, dealing with love, money, resources, assets, maybe even like food, business, career, transactions, partnerships, investments, like stuff like that could be going on in the midst of like all of this, or very much a part of it somehow. It's not bad for the most part because it's this trine, but like when trines are happening, it's just like things happen. Like it's not necessarily conflict oriented, but Uranus, it can create upsets. It's also the silver lining planet, though. It's also the galactic fixer, and trines facilitate things. So whatever is happening in the realms of love and money, finances, material assets, and possessions right now, there could definitely be like upsets to the comfort zones or shakeups going on, but it's part of some higher plan. Like it is for the best. It will make sense going forward into the future. And we need to try to be like adaptable and at least go with that flow, even though we might be like ready to fight back against a lot of stuff. Things are changing for the best somehow along those particular Venus lines as we move throughout this lunar cycle. Okay, and again, Jupiter retrograde, opposite Mercury retrograde, Gemini Sag, it's about the lessons learned and their application, which frees us to expand. In the true nature of Jupiter and Sagittarius, the season that we are about to be moving through. So we may need to conquer something of a lower nature within ourselves or within the world around us, but it is also like all the world is sort of a chessboard this cycle when we have a new moon aligning exactly with Antares, and it literally is this concept of may the best man win. Whoever is the most prepared, whoever has learned their lessons the best, whoever is the most strategic and practiced and like ready and prepared in their approach, this is what is likely to be rewarded in the end here. And even if we find ourselves faltering or falling short, or we realize we're not coming out on top or exactly the way that we would like to, as this energy unfolds, it is nothing but another opportunity to try harder, to learn again, to become stronger, wiser, more strategic, and more prepared for the next time, perhaps, that this pattern repeats or this lesson presents itself. So there's really ultimately no losing here. We're either going to be leveling up, or we're going to come to understand what we need to learn in order to do that leveling up and free ourselves to go through that phase of growth. So there's definitely tests, as I said, that I feel like are presenting here, and the lessons ultimately are going to become these blessings once we learn to apply them properly. And this is clear with the Jupiter Mercury fusion of energy ruling the cycle, and the fixed star placement that is so prominent as well. Personal excellence, courage, honor, wisdom, the indomitable will to persevere and succeed, being blessed and rewarded perhaps in some big ways as we move from this cycle onwards. Antares, Aldebaran. Remember, Aldebaran brings fortune, luck, protection, blessings. This is honor. This is goodwill. This is integrity. This is doing the right thing, balanced up against that perseverance and that courage and that risk-taking and that strategy and that calculated scorpionic nature, that fixed, like I said, indomitable will that cannot and will not budge from the course that it has set before itself. But we just want to do it in the right way, okay? None of this flying out of control, flying off the handle, emotions just all over the place, scattered, chaotic, because that's the other way that this energy could go, honestly. Like, there could be a lot of chaos, a lot of miscommunications with this Mercury retrograde, mutual reception, Jupiter, like a big lack of understandings, big overblown like visions and self-delusions and being totally out of touch with reality and being kind of like almost manic or maniacal in our approach to stuff. Like people could be falling on that end of the spectrum as well and really encountering some self-destructive forces as this energy comes through that cause some type of like karmic smackdown type of situation that again are opportunities for us to figure out what we need to improve about ourselves and our behavior and the way that we're thinking about things and using our mind as we move forward. Because remember, you guys, we are going through a transition of ages right now. This next 20 years is really requiring all of us to get on board with some like trip towards self-actualization, be it in small, minute ways or in terms of like total life overall hauls. Pluto in Aquarius really demands and expects that we step into our personal power through developing our talent and potential and stop like sleeping on ourselves, you know what I mean? And just kind of being passive observers in our own lives and realities while everybody else creates our experiences and we just sit there and consume. Like the age of consumerism very much so I think is to an extent going to be altered as this Pluto Aquarius energy comes in, and we then therefore move into the age of Aquarius as well. So let's talk about some symbolism for a moment that's associated with this new moon. 10 degrees of Sagittarius, which is the Sabian symbol for the placement of the new moon, a theatrical representation of a golden-haired goddess of opportunity, the polarity point to the new moon, the position of the earth, an airplane performing a nosedive. Highs and lows, you guys, risks and rewards, opportunity and downfall, again, doubles, doubling things, doubling down on things, pairs, twins, counterparts, similarities and differences, matches and polarities, but drama in both domains, in both directions, performance, skill, talent, strategy, putting on a show, but false pretenses, false appearances, false representation, things not being presented perhaps as they truly are, but at a collective understanding at this point that truly the whole world is a stage. We can see that now. We need to understand the assignment. We need to know our role, play our part, seize the opportunities that come to us. It's our choice now to either fly or fall, essentially, in this energy. The airplane performing a nosedive, the golden-haired goddess of opportunity, depending on how we use our mind and how we channel our energy. So that's what I have to say, you guys, about this new moon in Sagittarius. It is a time to fly, but it could also perhaps be a time where we trip and fall if we are not using our energy wisely. The Scorpio side of the Mars energy. But it has to be in combination in the context of and integrating the polarity of that Antares, heart of the Scorpion energy, which is the eye of the bull, which is the Archangel Michael energy. Has to be done with honor, has to be done in integrity, has to be done sort of like for the good of all, like to banish the manifestations of perceived evil that may wish to hinder our ability to grow and align with God's version and vision and image of us. You know what I mean? So we're fighting the good fight this time around, you guys. Definitely, as I said, there are battle themes that seem to be coming through here, but it is also a time of blessed growth, especially in terms of our mind, our thoughts, our perspective. There could be some sudden positive improvements with that Uranus-Venus trine. Like things could change financially for the better. Again, it could also bring upsets to the comfort level and comfort zone and stuff like that as well. But we're being put in a place where we have to apply wisdom from the past to conquer the demons of the present. And once we do that, this is suggesting some type of good luck, good fortune, blessing, reward, recognition, acknowledgement, freedom, liberation, and truth. I'm going to stop talking now. I'm going to get a well, I guess not technically, but I'm going to stop talking about astrology now. I'm going to get us a synchronicity card, one last piece of guidance or advice. God, Great Spirit, Universe, what do we need to know? We had a card come out. Interestingly enough, it says sort your friends. As I mentioned, the relationship, partnership, like alliance dynamic of things could really be undergoing some changes as we move through this period of time. And remember, we also have a South Node in Libra right now. We also are wrapping up a 1.5-year transit that has been calling for changes in relationship dynamics, especially in the context of like how we had previously defined ourselves within the group and what changes might need to go on in that regard in order to set ourselves free to be more on this independent, self-directed path towards this higher destiny that we are all being ushered, pushed, nudged towards at this point in time. So sort your friends, it says, he that troubleth his own house shall inherit the wind, Proverbs 11:29. Your house is your mind. Fill your mind with only thoughts of harmony, health, peace, joy, and goodwill. Likewise, choose only those friends who embody those same sorts of ideals. Having negative thoughts and negative friends is not the road you wish to take. Be discriminating, sort out your thoughts, sort through your friends. You already know the answer to this. Again, you guys, be strategic. Be strategic with your language, be strategic with your connection, be strategic with your alliances, be strategic with who you're trusting. All the world is a chessboard as we move through this cycle. That is what I know when we have a new moon aligning with fixed star Antares. Universe is saying, watch your back, sort your friends, make sure the ones who are on your team are the ones who are working to help you move towards that phase of growth and not acting as like silent saboteurs, secretly working on their own behalf, but not necessarily for the good of all. Okay, so I don't know. We'll see how it goes, you guys. There's a lot of ways that all this energy could play out. It's going to manifest very differently depending on the various circumstances that we're all involved in, but that is our guidance, and that is how things are looking for our new moon in Sagittarius cycle. So that's what I have to say today, you guys. I hope you liked the video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel, you guys. Share it with your friends if you think that they would enjoy this type of astrology content as well. Leave me comments. I'm super grateful for your presence on my channel. If you guys are having experiences that line up with what I'm talking about in these videos, please let me know in my comment section below. If you want to know what's on this whiteboard, I take a picture of those boards and post them in a Facebook group that I have that is linked in my description box below. And come back with me on Monday, you guys. We have a new lunar cycle to get into and a new month also that we are going to be jumping into on Monday. So I will be back to talk about it. You should be here too. You don't want to miss it, you guys. I will see you then. Have a beautiful weekend, beautiful new moon in Sagittarius. And until next time, you guys, bye.